In this video, we will look at the VLOOKUP function. VLOOKUP is a very powerful and difficult function that is often used in businesses to update or clean data. It is also used in interviews to judge the level of Excel skills a person has. VLOOKUP basically allows you to have a value, then look for it in a column of data, and then it can either look for an exact match or the fact that it falls in a range, and then return a value from a different column. So the way the function is set up is it's a function, so you'll enter equal VLOOKUP. Then the first thing you tell Excel is, okay, this is the value I want to look for. Then you have to tell it the table where it's going to look for that value in the first column. And then the table can have multiple columns, and you have to tell which column you're going to return the value from and whether there needs to be an exact match or if it just has to fall between two values. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at our grade list and take the VLOOKUP function to convert our numeric scores to a letter grade.
Now we'll use VLOOKUP to determine all of our students' final grades. I've added the column for the grade, and then I've also added the VLOOKUP table. So if you want to pause the video for a second and add that to your worksheet. All right, so let's add the VLOOKUP. So again, like all of our other functions, equal VLOOKUP. There it is. We're going to double click on it. I'm going to come over here and use the function so that I can just enter in the fields that I want. All right, so the first one is the value that we want to look up. And if you move here and we'll look at Joseph again, I want to look up his numeric grade. So my cursor is in that first lookup value, and I'm not going to enter the number. I'm just going to click over here and say that I want to look in that cell. So that's the value that we're going to look up. And then I have to look at what the table array is, and that just means my whole VLOOKUP table here. So you come over to this top block where the 0 is, and then I need to drag across and drag down because I want the entire table. All right, so what this is telling me is the first column in your table is always where you are looking for your lookup value. And then you can have multiple columns, and you can tell VLOOKUP to return any value from any of those columns. I'm going to ask it to return it from the curve 1 column, so that is the actual lookup values are the first column, so curve 1 is in my second column. So I'm going to put 2 there. And then the lookup range is whether you want a exact match or a range. And the exact match would mean the only time I would get anything here is if I had a value of 0, it would return the F. If I had an exact value of 60, it would return D, 70, it would return C. All right, but we don't want that. That's when you say an exact match is false, and it defaults to true. So when you're just looking for where it falls within a range, you can just leave it blank. All right, so I'm going to hit OK, and we have gotten Joseph's grade. And what you see is that it takes this value of 75.65, and it comes over here, and in the first row it looks and it says, okay, I'm going to return a 0. I'm going to return a 0, or if I have a 0, I'm going to return an F. Then I'm going to keep returning an F until I hit 60. 60 is the cutoff point where I start returning a D. And then if I have 61, it's still I haven't flipped the switch to the C yet. So 61, 62, all the way up, keeps returning a D. Then when I finally get to 70, it then returns a C. And then all of the values greater than 70 up to just under 80 will return C's. Then the 80 is what returns the B, and then anything that is above a 90 will return an A. All right, so you see that Joseph's score is 75.65, so that is greater than 70. So we flipped the switch to a C, but it's not greater than 80, so we haven't gotten the B. All right, so that's how it works. Now, like I said, you can have multiple columns. So like if I changed this, if I just went and looked at my function, I said, I like curve 2 better. And so since curve 2 is in column 3 of the table, I changed that to 3. And now instead of returning this value from the column that has curve 1, you're returning it from the one that has curve 2. All right, and that's kind of a nicer curve, so we'll leave it at that. Now we want to go ahead and copy things down. And again, we remember that when we copy it down, all of my row numbers are going to increase by 1. Well, we want the numeric grade to increase by 1, so that's fine. But what happens if I drag this down the way it is? Well, you see that it looks like maybe it's okay, but we get here and we really see something's wrong. Well, if you go back and click on, put your little cursor right next to the far right side and left mouse button, you see what's happening is my VLOOKUP table keeps moving down, so eventually we run out of it. So that's not going to work. So we got to come back up here, and now what we have to do is lock the table. So we don't want the L6 to the N10 to change. So again, you can either put $signs around both of them, or if your F4 function works, you just put it in front of to the far left side of the cell address and do F4. All right, and so now we've got that, and it'll lock, and all I have to do is drag it down to finish all of the students' grade. And it looks like I didn't get this dragged down all the way, so we'll just finish that one up too. And now we've used VLOOKUP to convert all of these numeric scores to the appropriate grade. Like I said, VLOOKUP, anytime you can look for, you can do it as an exact match, but then it's only when you have the exact matches on this first column that it will return any value.